Dominican men are the kings of saying sweet nothings to get their way, and a new one has landed on 90 Day Fiancé UK. He has his eyes set on leaving the island, and I just pray that he doesn't embarrass the motherland like the others have been, because it has been a major disappointment. And after seeing the last 4 episodes, you guys, it doesn't look too promising. I think that he's going to join the rest of them. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We're here to cover 90 Day Fiancé UK. I've been dodging this show, but you guys have been raving about it. I'm like, I think I need to get into it. And you guys were right. It did not disappoint. Each couple is uniquely chaotic, and this episode will mainly be focused on Charlotte and Johan. They're the ones that have caught my eye for biased reasons, and I hope that you'll humor me. Before I get into it, as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you're new here, hello, welcome, join us. And yeah, let's get into this. So presenting Johan, 21, from the Dominican Republic, and Charlotte, 34, from Southampton, okay? Automatically, I'm like, no. I've seen everything that I have to see. Pack it up. What could you possibly have in common with a 21-year-old, okay? But when we meet Charlotte, you know, she seems vivacious. She seems like she does what she wants. She's a barber. She has a convertible. She has her own place. She has cats. It looks like a happy life. We get to see a little more of her personality as she banters with her mother. I'm like, okay, this girl is a straight shooter. She doesn't allow BS in her space, right? It seems like a nice life. Why mess it up? But that she does, okay? Because she went on vacation, aka on holiday, with her parents, and she spots this young thing. And she's like, I want that, right? And first of all, awkward to have a hookup in the middle of a family vacation. I don't even look at people that I could possibly be attracted to when I'm with family. It's just, I don't want to touch that, right? But not Charlotte. Charlotte's like, I'm an adult. I'm going to hook up with this man for 2 days straight on a family vacation. And so she went back home. She couldn't stop thinking about him. And she was like, wow, I am in love. And they stayed in communication. She goes back 4 months later and they seal the deal. They're engaged. We see them talking on FaceTime, and he's learning English pretty well, and he's learning it with an English accent, and I am so jealous. I have never been more jealous, okay? Thanks to TikTok, I have discovered that there's a whole community of Dominicans in London. Like restaurants, hair salons, clubs, spaces. And every time that I think about the fact that my ancestors let go of an opportunity to live in England, can you imagine me with an English accent? I would be insufferable because I would be that girl. I love the UK. I listen to so much music from out there. A bunch of the content creators that I follow are from there. I love them. And so the fact that that was robbed from me. Anyway, tangent aside, Johan is learning English pretty rapidly, so I think that along with his age will really help him adjust when he eventually, hopefully, goes to England to marry her. Yeah, Charlotte's like, I'm ready to start a life with this man. I want to have his kids. Like, she's not messing around. When I heard this, I was like, oh boy, because stereotypes aside, they come from some truth. Dominican men love having side quests. They love having side families. And he is 21. And I don't know his intentions. My prediction this early on is that if they do make it to marriage and he does make it to England, it's not going to last long because they're at 2 completely different points of their lives. I feel like at 21, there's still so much that you want to do. And Charlotte is very much in the space of, I want to settle down. Because Charlotte's headspace is that she was happy being single. But then after she turned 30, she realized that everyone around her was pairing up, everyone around her was starting to have families, and she was alone. And she didn't have anyone to share these life experiences with. And she noticed herself getting older, and time is just fleeting. And she's like, I want to have a family. I want to share my life with someone. I want to create memories. I think that that's something that Johan is telling her that he wants, but I don't know. I just don't know. And Charlotte is madly in love, you guys, and the people around her, rightfully so, are cautiously supportive. We see her at a brunch with her friends, and, she's talking about him, and they're like, we can't believe that you're doing this. You are someone that, it takes you a minute to trust someone, and you're just gonna jump into this with someone that lives abroad. Why not sign up for the visa first? And I guess you're suggesting the K1 visa, right? Which is what I thought she was gonna do until this moment. Her friend was like, why not do the K1 visa? That way you have a window of time to still get to know each other while in the same place, because you've only been with each other on vacation time. And Charlotte's like, no. Paperwork stuff is so hard. He's already gotten denied for a travel visa. We're only going to get taken seriously if we're married. And so she's planning to get married in the Dominican Republic and then do the paperwork to get him here. She seems really decided, you guys. Like, she's not really trying to hear it. And because she's not really trying to hear it from other people, she hasn't really let them in on things like Johan's age. So when they ask to see a picture of him and she shows one, they're like, he looks a little young. How old is he? And she's like, 21. They're like, and you don't mind? She's like, not anymore. I mean, I didn't know his age until after we hooked up. And I was like, oh, but he said age is nothing but a number, so it doesn't matter. And they're all like, okay. But in this brunch situation, we get a little more details about their relationship. Charlotte shares with them that she's not too fond of his day job. So the way that she met Johan was at the resort, because he works as like the entertainment staff. And if you've been to a resort, you know how that goes. And we've also seen it with past people like Luis and Johan. These guys are being charming and flirting with the guests, and they're making guests feel special, and they're, almost working like a concierge, but also like teaching dance classes, and, they're doing all of that. And so that's how she met him. And so because that's how she met him, she's like, wait, he's doing this 10, 11 hours a day? Like, what if he's meeting other people? What if he's cheating on me? She's having all these thoughts. And when I heard this in episode 1, I thought a few things, but the main thing was, I understand having that fear of getting cheated on, totally. But your insecurity is your problem. You have to communicate it with your partner and like work out something that feels good for the both of you. But immediately hearing that, I was like, ooh, I'm seeing red flags from her that we could see it go left, where she is so jealous that she becomes controlling and then tells him that he can't work and tries to monitor his day to day, because we've seen it happen with other people. We've seen cast members have to quit their jobs because their partner that's abroad and is insecure is like, well, I need you to be able to answer my text immediately. I need you to be awake when I'm awake. And things like that. Familiar? So yeah, I mean, it could go badly either way. And we finally meet Johan, and he's in Punta Cana, and we see him talking to some female guests, which is how it goes in most of these places. I feel like they're there to make people feel comfortable. They're there to also get people to be involved in activities, and they get tips. And that is how a lot of them support themselves. They don't get paid a lot on salary, so they have to work up the charm. Kind of how like bartenders do it here It's common, but it's not for the weak. If you're dating one of these guys, brace yourself. And immediately when I see him, I'm like, oh my God, this kid is a kid. He's so young. And he's, raving about, yeah, I meet so many girls, like so many, like I've been with so many. And I'm just like, is that the best thing to say on a show where you're talking about getting married to someone? This is that discernment that you don't get until past 25. He doesn't have it at 21. But after he's done raving about the girls, he says that he has to, put a show to get tips because he's the main breadwinner in his family. He supports his mother and his baby brother and I think his grandmother. And he says that the days are long. Again, he works like 10 to 11 hours and it's for them. And then they pan to his family and it made me so emotional. I love us. I love our joy. I love our commitment to each other. I love our audacity. Seeing him with his family made me emotional because that's the case for a lot of us, a lot of our families. A lot of people come from humble beginnings and still take so much pride in the things that we have. But it also makes me sad that some young people can't be just a young person. Like at 21, I was in college and I got to be stupid, And then there's some people that are 21 are the head of household, like Johan is. He just has a lot of responsibility. And his mom shares a little bit about how helpful Charlotte has been, that when she was in the hospital, she, paid for her medication. So clearly Charlotte is in the mix with his loved ones. We also see a scene where he goes to talk to one of his friends. And this is where I'm looking at him like, I get you, but I'm also like, what's your intention? Okay. So we see him go to some bar to meet up with a friend. But first he explains how he and Charlotte met. And he's explaining it in all this Dominican slang that completely ages him. And if Charlotte spoke Spanish or like was in the know of the things that he was saying, I think that she would get the ick because it's like when you hear a middle schooler using slang. That's what it felt like for me hearing Johan. And I'm like, this man-child is engaged to a 34-year-old? How? But he tells his friend that he's looking forward to getting married, to starting life in England, and that his plan is to go there and teach Spanish. And he's going to make a good living, and it's just going to be a good opportunity for him to take care of himself and his family. And the whole time I'm like, yes, like that's perfectly fine to see it as an opportunity, right? Like everyone should want to evolve and should want better for themselves. And sometimes we are in circumstances that don't allow us to grow. So sure, like if someone can help you and it's in an ethical way, go for it. My problem is that Charlotte is viewing this as a love partnership. And not once in this conversation with his friend did he say, I fell in love, or I love this about her, or just nothing like that was said. Like he didn't say, she's a good woman, I'm excited to grow in love together. None of that. We see Charlotte again, and we see her with her mother, and she's very close with her mom. But this can be a gift and a curse, as we've seen on this franchise, okay? Because her mother is not a fan of this relationship. And so her mother does not hold back, and she's like, I just think that he's using you for the visa. And, other people have thought so too. And when she said that, I was like, this lady is spreading her daughter's business to anyone that will hear. Because what do you mean other people think so too? It's none of their business. And Charlotte is annoyed. You can tell that she's heard this a lot, but she's just putting the blinders up because she wants people to support her decision, even though they think it's the craziest thing. And it is a little living life on the edge, But she's 34 years old. She's not asking for anyone's help. She's figuring it out. Say your advice once and then you gotta let it go. But the mamas don't work like that. Okay, I know that. And so her mother's like, I don't feel comfortable with you sending money. At first I was like, sending money? But Charlotte's like, I've only sent it when they really need it, like for his mother's medication and for when there was a hurricane and they literally needed a roof. And the mother's like, well, they would have had to figure it out if you weren't there. That didn't rub me the right way. Like, God forbid you ever have a rainy day and someone says that about you. Like, lucky you if you are to have community, people that are able to help you. And I know that money stuff is different in all cultures and context is so important. It doesn't sound like she's just frivolously sending him money. It's been for things that matter. The only one that was like not important is when she was like, oh, I sent him money for his birthday. She just seems like a generous person, but everything seems appropriate thus far. Also, this is someone that she plans on marrying, and if they literally don't have a roof and you can provide, why not do it? Like, that is what partnership is, through the good and bad. And Charlotte is explaining these things to her mother, and her mother just has a stank face the whole time. And she shuts down her mother and she's like, I have my eyes set on the future. We want to have children soon. And it's very clear that Charlotte desperately wants children. It is like her heart's desire. And her mother is like, you shouldn't just bring kids to life just because you want them. Like, you have to be ready. And I agree with that. They should be prepared. But Charlotte's coming from the place of, I got it together already, and when he comes here and he starts working and we can both provide, we're going to be good. She has a plan laid out. Her mother is trying to rain on her parade. And so in episode 2, we see Charlotte packing up, getting ready for her trip. She's like, we haven't seen each other in 4 months. Will he still like me? And I'm like, girl, if you're asking yourself if your fiance will still like you, I think that tells you that something's off, okay? I feel for her, but I'm also like, you don't have to marry him if you have doubts. But poor Charlotte's just like, he's 21. If this doesn't work out, he gets to start over so many times. As for me, the clock is ticking. It's running out. And that's not true. And I hate that our media has told us that women turn into raisins and disappear after 30. It's simply false, and it's so harmful because people keep that in the back of their minds, and it causes women to run into and stay in unstable partnerships. So it's finally the day for Charlotte to arrive. And we're seeing Johan the morning of. We see him at his mom's house again, and he says that he's a mama's boy and that, if Charlotte's gonna love him, she has to also love his mother. And that does not surprise me. Dominican men, their mothers treat them like gods, like they could do no wrong. So of course he's a mama's boy. Not surprising. He asks his mother to tell the cameras how she feels about his relationship with Charlotte. And she goes, I approve of it. She's really helped us a lot. And I hope that he takes advantage of this opportunity and that he doesn't mess it up. Okay, so we're still referring to Charlotte as an opportunity. Like she's a charity. Like she's not a human being that wants love. Okay. And all of this, it sounds like a transactional relationship. And transactional relationships are probably the oldest model of relationships there is. But people are usually in agreement of what they're signing up for. Charlotte, I don't know if this is what she's signing up for. They're not saying this like in a bad way, but it's so clear that the word love is it's not coming up. They do say that when Charlotte was out there to visit, and she went to the house and she saw it with her own eyes, just how rough it was, that's when she offered to help them out. So that context is important because, one, it lets her know that he's not just taking her money and doing whatever with it. She's seeing exactly where it's going. And that gives me a little hope. Like he's not just taking it and buying a bunch of clothes or going out to things. she can see where it's going. And so my thoughts at the end of episode 2 was, I really like Charlotte. I don't know how I feel about Johan. I hope she doesn't get played. So episode 3, Charlotte lands in the Dominican Republic and she has all these jitters, all these feelings. She's feeling so insecure. She's at the airport and she's like, what if he met someone else and he decides not to show up to the airport? And I'm like, girl, you are spiraling. Let's reel it in, okay? Sometimes the things that we fabricate in here is wild, okay? But anyway, she arrives, she's walking, she spots his big smile, and they have a really nice reunion. He has flowers, it's very sweet. Although he's really sweet and he's made this gesture, at first I'm like, he's acting a little too chill. Like he's not, I don't know, he's not being too lovey-dovey, and she was. And they're on the way to the resort, and they're like, are you excited to marry me? Yes, I am. Are you excited? And they're talking about the wedding plans and how he wants like 80 people at the wedding. And she's like, they're probably all going to be for you because I'm only going to have like 2 people. And he's like, yeah. Immediately for me, I was like, Johan, you make enough to sustain your family, but I don't think you make enough to host 80 people for a wedding. So it's all going to fall in Charlotte's hands. And so far, you know, it's a pretty big tab, okay? But she's trying to put all of that aside. She's not trying to think about money, okay? She's at this beautiful resort with him. She's going to be there for a week. And so again, you guys, you know, he's being really chill, really, I don't know. I don't like people that are too cool. Like, show me that you're obsessed with me. Because she was showing that she was obsessed with him, you know? But he turned it around when they got to their hotel room and he had a bunch of rose petals laid out for her and pictures of them on the wall. And you could see that she was really moved. The minute she saw that gesture, she stopped thinking about price tags. She stopped thinking about the fact that they were about to double charge her for the hotel room. She was like, wow, this man made me feel special. He loves me. I don't have to stress about all these insecurities for tonight. Like, this is the romance that she wanted. And she's like, you know what? We could start making the babies tonight. And she's not kidding. The next morning, we see them all giddy. And apparently, I don't know if he laid it on real good because she slept hard. He was making fun of her snoring. And I snore too. And I refuse to get that apnea machine thing that they do. I think it looks terrifying. But what I do now is that I order earplugs from Amazon. And I literally give it, well, I haven't had any lovers, but in a while. But what I've done when I had a sleepover with my cousin, I was like, I don't want to hear you complain about my snoring. Wear these earplugs and zip it. And that is what I would recommend her to do. He could just wear lifelong earplugs. But their sweet morning is over because he has to go to work, and she knew that before she got there. So he's going to be working long hours, but it sounds like they, you know, figured out when they're going to hang out, when they're going to have dinner together. So she has to keep herself busy. The producers never cease to amaze me with their messiness because she goes to the beach and there's a chair just casually open next to another English woman. What are the odds? And they get to talking, and for some reason, Charlotte is just oversharing about the reason she's there, who her fiance is, and the whole time, the woman is just saying things that I know the producers fed her. She's like, and you're not worried that he works in entertainment? You're not worried that he's so young? Wow, you've probably spent a lot of money coming back and forth. Wow, doesn't that scare you? And Charlotte is already on the edge, okay? Not the edge of glory, on the edge of an anxiety attack. She is spiraling. And it doesn't help that the whole time she's talking, her man is working at the resort next door. So she has no idea what's happening. This lady is planting all these seeds of doubt, super random. So she leaves her and she goes to the bar. And there's this nice looking young person at the bar, and they get to talking. And again, Homegirl is just spreading her business. Because before we know it, she's like, so yeah, he works in entertainment. Do you think that he meets a lot of girls? Do you think that? And the guy's like, well, probably, like that's literally their job to meet people. But you could see that he regrets being nice and having this conversation because Charlotte, she's in a tizzy. She's chugging this beer and she is stressed. And my thing is, Charlotte, you're acting like a 21-year-old. Because what could these people that have no idea who Johan is, what could they know? This is your man. I would understand if she's asking these questions to someone that actually knows him, but the bartender didn't know who he was. He's just giving a generalization. I'm not saying the generalization couldn't be true. And so Charlotte is burnt. She's probably tipsy. And she is just a ball of insecurity, okay? And so it's time for her to meet up with Johan. He's on the clock. As we know with these jobs, time is an illusion. He could be late. He could come early. But Charlotte tells us that she's impatient. She doesn't like to wait. And to that I say, then you probably shouldn't have come to the country when you know he has to work. Because he's not on your time. You are on his. As annoying as it is, I don't like to be on other people's time either. But that's just how the cookie crumbled, okay? So she's in the lobby and she's pissed because he's 40 minutes late. And she's like, I have a good mind of just getting his things and leaving it at reception. Ma'am, please, have some decorum. Give it some time. She's all charged up with all these things that are make-believe because nothing has happened. Johan has done nothing that she knows of, and she's building these worlds in her head. And that is why it's so important to do so much self-work and to be with people that bring you calm, because this kind of state of hysteria, it's exhausting. The unnecessary labor that is happening in your brain, it is so consuming. I've been there. I know a bunch of you have also. It's not a good time. Okay? So she's sitting in this lobby and she is stewing. So in episode 4, she's still sitting there and he arrives in his work uniform with a big smile. And she's happy to be with him. And she's like, oh, maybe I was a little too crazy. Ma'am? And so they go to the beach and they have this moment. And I am reminded just how smooth Dominican men are. It's a gift and a curse. They're just the smoothest guys when they want to wrap you around their finger. And Charlotte is enamored. What I took away from their conversation on the beach is that Charlotte is no fool. She's aware that life will be better for him in England, and he kind of confirms it in that conversation. So she's in the know. But what she makes clear is that when he gets to England, she wants a family. And they joke that they want like 5 or 3 kids, but it's a plan. They want a family. And this conversation has me feeling like it is transactional. She may not claim it as such, but that conversation it sounds like they both know what they're gaining out of it. And so the next scene that we see is of Charlotte going to visit his family, and the vibes are a bit off to me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, and I would love to know what you guys think, but the mom has probably seen Charlotte maybe at most 5 times in a span of like 2-3 trips at most. So this welcome, and maybe that dry welcome was of just, oh, well, you're already part of the family, like I don't have to perform for you. Maybe it's that. I don't know. But my read of it was that it felt a little weird, and it just kept getting weirder for me. Because in the confessional, Johan is like, Charlotte has helped my family a lot, and I hope that she helps out more. So they're talking to the mom, and I don't know if the mom is still sick but her energy is just down. And Charlotte's just like looking around and she's like, can you ask your mom if there's anything that she needs? And the mom, like, at first, like, doesn't want to answer, but she does. She's doing that thing. And she goes, well, I need the stove fixed, and, I have a few doctor's appointments coming, and I don't know. I need some help. But the way that she said it, she wasn't making eye contact. And that could be read a few ways. That could be read as in, oh, well, I'm shy, I have a little shame in asking you. Or it can be read as, I'm deceiving you and I don't want to make eye contact. I didn't get a good feeling. And you could tell Charlotte has a big heart and she just wants to be of service in any way that she can. But she said she's a barber. I don't think she's making bank, okay? And she is supporting herself as an independent woman and also helping his family. And she has to undergo all the paperwork stuff. The visits to the Dominican Republic are expensive on their own. He's not covering their housing. She has to pay for hotels. It's adding up, okay? And it's a lot. And I would hate to see something come out of them scheming against her to use, to deplete her of her money. I don't want to think that. I don't want to assume that. Something didn't feel right to me in that scene. So I would love to know how you guys interpreted it. I'm all for people helping each other. I think it's important if you can. I'm not a fan of people taking advantage of each other. And again, it looks like Charlotte just has a big heart and she's a bit of a problem solver, but she should set parameters so that she doesn't get taken advantage of. So she was just like, how much do you guys need? As opposed to being like, I can offer this, like I've budgeted this, But what is different about this couple though is that it seems like they've already talked out money stuff behind the scenes, because she asks him, she's like, oh, like we'll be sending money, like what's the expectation? And he's like, yeah, like 300 or something monthly. And she was like, okay, and tell your mom that we're also going to come on a holiday to make sure that we see her. So it sounds like they have the money stuff ironed out. I just think that the issue will happen when Charlotte inevitably tells her mother. Of course, she's a grown woman. She can do whatever she wants with her money. But I think that she values her mother's opinion. And from what we've seen, she let strangers' thoughts build a home in her head. I can only imagine what will happen as this process intensifies and she has people that she actually knows telling her that he's sus. Yeah, I foresee this getting really chaotic. The last scene that we see is of Charlotte visiting a venue, and it's beautiful. It's on the beach. I'm afraid that this is like a foreshadow of things, because they had her practicing walking down the aisle, but she was by herself. He was at work. So she was just walking down the aisle by herself, and it felt kind of ominous, and she was just smiling because she's really holding on to this fantasy. I mean, she really needs it to come true. And I'm scared for her. I don't know, you guys. I will be keeping up with these two, and if anything interesting comes up, I will be reporting on it. But I would love to know what you guys think. If you think that there is a love connection, if you think that it's just lust or opportunity, I would love to know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.